Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best Care Anywhere podcast. I am your host and a man with a personal vendetta against Wells Fargo Bank, Anthony. With me, as always, my co host, a man whose every road trip could be a direct to video sequel of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ethan Wilson.
If I had a fifth of the comedic timing that John Candy does, I would die a happy man.
Hello, everyone. We're recording this 4 days later than we should because someone decided to drive to Winnemucca to get a cat and then proceed to have everything else go wrong. And I'll give you a hint, it wasn't me.
Okay, well, in my defense, the cat was a side quest to the main mission of getting a new dashboard for my 65.
See, you left that part out. I didn't know that. I thought it was solely for the cat.
No, it was also because I refused to pay $400 worth of shipping fees because the package was like 9 feet long.
Yeah, $400 for a trip to Winnemucca. Yeah, that about evens out, I think. That makes sense.
It's not about the money, it's about the principle. It weighed like 8 pounds. It was just big.
You probably don't want it. Who is going to ship it? That's the even better question.
It was a job finding anyone who would even venture close to touch it. I think I had to go with USPS in the end. But, once I work up the gumption to weld it on, I'll be like mostly rust free. So, hallelujah.
So I think you're avoiding the big part of the road trip. You made it to Winnemucca. You got there.
So
no, he was not going to Burning Man.
No, I was not, because I am a decent human being, with morals and etc. Well, that's not true. That's 2 lies. But no, I don't go to Burning Man. My ever reliable 2001 Buick LeSabre with a 3.8 liter V6 front wheel drive, which is a fucking nightmare to work on, decided to go kaput and would only idle at 4,000 RPMs off the rev limiter or not at all. It was fine driving, so, just don't stop. So I cannonballed home, stopping only for gas, which was each time, a very calculate, every 350 miles, you have to figure which one is easiest to get to from off the freeway. Which one can I literally coast to? And which one will, probably have a motel to sleep at if I,
if you can't get the car started. Yeah.
Yeah.
You also forgot to share the part where you brake checked a cop.
I told you about that.
Yes, you sent us all a Snapchat image of you getting pulled over, because I'm pretty sure it's just muscle reflex at this point that you send us a picture.
So in my defense, I did not purposefully brake check a cop. I just so happened to see a shit ton of deer on the side of the road, and I hate those fuckers. So I hit the brakes kinda hard. And the cop behind me did not take kindly to that, and he pulled me over.
Was he chill when you explained, sir, there was a herd of deer and I didn't know what they were gonna fucking do?
Yeah. He was cool with it. He just, checked all my license and registration and all that, and made sure I was legit, because Nebraska cops are, on the level. But yeah. So never a dull moment. Now I have a all-black cat with yellow eyes. His name is Dietz, and he's wandering about 5 feet to my left as I speak. So, what about you? While I've been making bad decisions, what have you been getting up to?
I went canoeing with the scout troop.
Oh yeah, you were exploring mines.
Not harassing local law enforcement or blowing up vehicles. Like, I don't know. It was pretty normal.
Hold on. I'll have you know that busted 01 LeSabre got me from Nevada to Kansas on Interstate 80, which, reaches elevations of like 8,000 feet or more. Also, just, credit where credit's due. I talk a lot of shit in this podcast because I'm not that good of a human being. I would like to, just walk some of that back and say, Wyoming, you are fixing or have fixed Interstate 80 and a bunch of your roads. Good for you. They are not as shit as I made them out to be last time I spoke of you, I apologize for that and that alone.
One guy heard you bitch about Wyoming's roads, and he's like, "I'll go. I'll fall on the sword. I'll go fix them."
Yep,
But
and I owe you a beer. I mean, I owe you a lot more, but I can only afford to give you a beer because my only mode of transportation to get me to and from school is Foobarred. So, you know,
nice.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
not you could always ride a motorcycle to school. That's not.
The motorcycle's also Foobarred.
Oh no.
Yeah, my
Anyway.
crankshaft position sensor went out and left me walking when I was riding it to school the other day. So,
Oh, nice. Yeah, I went canoe camping with the scout troop. That was fun. It was a lake way up in the Sierra Nevada mountains that you can drive to reasonably well in most motor vehicles with enough ground clearance. We did it in a vehicle with enough ground clearance while towing a modified boat trailer that was holding 6 canoes. That scared the bejesus out of every Jeep or 4x4 that came around the corner because they are not expecting a four 15-foot canoes and 2 10-foot 10-man war canoes, or not 10-foot, sorry, 20-foot 10-man war canoes to be coming around the corner behind this vehicle. But it was good. We camped for 2 nights. We harassed the local wildlife, poured chemicals in the lake, and tossed garbage down the local mine shafts. So, you know,
the
just normal
EPA would
scouting
like
stuff.
you to know your location.
No, in all seriousness, we hung out. The fishing wasn't good because it was just a big, shallow gravel bar by where we were camping. But we did go check out an old hard rock gold mine, which is pretty bitchin'. So, yeah. All right.
That's really cool. You see, part of me wants to go explore all those old 1800s mines, and the other part of me is claustrophobic, so I don't.
Oh yeah, no, I would not
yeah.
go. You couldn't pay me money to go inside and like we have a lot of like caverns, like Moaning Caverns, Calaveras Caverns, the Black Chasm Caverns. We have caverns that people have explored and give tours in. Those I'm cool with because like we've explored them and know they're safe and stable. I'm not going into just some random ass mine shaft. No, thank you.
There's this guy on YouTube called Ghost Town Living who bought a literal ghost town.
I've seen this.
Yep.
Yeah.
A mining ghost town in Nevada just above Death Valley, and he is a crazy son of a bitch. Honestly, go check him out because it's really entertaining to watch. But this dude will go into the mines and like find shit, old pair of Levi's and dynamite boxes. It's nuts, and that terrifies me.
Nice. I feel like I need to clarify from the intro. Wells Fargo is my mortal enemy at the moment.
Yeah.
No surprise. I live paycheck to paycheck. And Wells Fargo decided, hey, so hang on, backtrack. I was able to do a lot more work toward the end of August because one of the other employees was out, so I was covering his full day shift. So I made like double the money I usually make, which is cool. But that also means my paycheck was significantly more than it usually is. And Wells Fargo went, hey, so we see you're depositing a check over $1,000. You don't usually do that. And we know that you're $300 overdrawn. And some of that's because we charge overdraft fees. And hey, we get it. And we see you're trying to put money in your account. And that's cool. And it's Labor Day weekend. You probably got plans. You probably want to go see Oppenheimer. You probably want to hang out. We understand that. We appreciate that. We're going to hold your check till Wednesday.
And Wells Fargo overdraft fees aren't like, they are just a few pennies. They're like $35 a lot.
They charged me a $12 service fee and then charged me an overdraft fee on their service fee. And I get it. I get it. I don't make enough money to cover my expenses. Right now I'm in that mode, and I'm sure there's a lot of younger people out there who have had to do this at some point, where you're like, either my groceries, my gas, or my rent is gonna just cost $35 more. Like, I need to eat, I need to drive places, and I need to have a house. So one of those is gonna be an overdraw, and one of those is gonna cost $35 extra. It's just a fact of life right now. But yeah, it's like those I'm fine with because I purposely said I don't have enough money, and instead of saying I'll make it work, it said, nah, I'm just going to charge and suck up the overdraft fee. That I'm fine with. It's the not giving me my money when I give them my money that frustrates me. But anyway.
But I digest.
Again, since we're talking about non-MASH stuff, hello, welcome to the beginning intro non-MASH part of the podcast. I too will maybe be making a cannonball run to Winnemucca, ironically. There's a bitchin' Ring of Fire solar eclipse happening next month, and if the scout troop can't get a trip together to run up there and go see it for a camping trip, I'm gonna just run up to Winnemucca, check out the eclipse, and run back home in the course of a 12-hour day, which, whatever, not a big deal. I don't mind driving that long, and I don't mind hanging out somewhere I've never been. It's just doing it all at once will be a lot, but it also saves me the like $200 or $150 for getting a hotel room somewhere. So yeah, that might be happening. But anyway, enough about not MASH stuff. We're going to talk about more not MASH stuff because I can't not address these three things because damn, it do make me kind of sad though. So celebrity deaths always come in threes, it seems. And we lost like 3 straight legends, and none of them are MASH related, but I feel like I want to like touch on each of them real quick. We lost Bob Barker, and I feel obligated to make a call to our audience to please always spay and neuter your pets. No, Bob Barker, obviously, if you don't know who Bob Barker is, how? How did you not stay homesick from school ever and watch The Price is Right? Like, what? And no, not The Price is Right with that Drew Carey asshole. I'm kidding. I love Drew Carey. I'm sorry, Drew. But no, Bob Barker died, which is sad and upsetting, and we hate it. We hate to see it. And then the lead singer of Smash Mouth, or the former lead singer of Smash Mouth, Harwell, what's his first name? Steve Harwell passed away. If you don't know who Smash Mouth is, if you're older, I understand if you don't know who Smash Mouth is, but if you're like the millennial generation, how dare you not know who Smash Mouth is? These would be the singers of All Star and their cover of the Monkees' I'm a Believer, made famous by the hit 2001 movie Shrek. Excuse me. So yeah, that was kind of upsetting because, like, dang, I wasn't like the biggest fan of, like, I wasn't a hardcore Smash Mouth fan, but I have heard All Star by Smash Mouth so many times growing up that it's like, dang, I kind of feel a way about it. And then the one that really got me, the one that really got me, because my mom had like the 4 CD set of his greatest hits that we jammed to in her minivan and at the pool during summer. The man, the myth, the absolute legend that is Jimmy Buffett. Dude, this dude. What? I genuinely, first time in a long time, I've been genuinely, like I said, I'm bummed out about Bob Barker. I'm bummed out about Steve Harwell. I was genuinely upset a little bit at the passing of Jimmy Buffett because he's such a vibe. I love him so much.
Yeah. He was a goddamn pioneer.
Mm-hmm. Dude, and I even pulled up a page to like just make sure I got his like some of the basic facts right. And I'm skimming through this. I'm like, what the hell? He got shot at by Jamaican police in his airplane and wrote a song called Jamaica Mistaka about it. Okay, that's weird. He not only was a famous songwriter, but he also was an entrepreneur and built a diversified lifestyle brand business, including Margaritaville restaurants, hotels, retirement communities, along with sidelines such as Landshark Beer and other. It's like, what the hell? And then it's like, oh, by the way, he was also an author. I'm like, dude, what? This dude is like the most laid back multimillionaire, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, dude's whole life was a side quest.
He was also born on Christmas Day, 1946. Like, what? So yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I felt the need to bring those 3 people up on the MASH podcast, but it's like, dang. Those are not unknown people that just passed away without notice. That's like yeah, I don't know.
May they rest
Share
in
with
peace.
us. Yes, share with us your thoughts on the Buffett, Harwell, and Barker, if you have any. I know they're not
Well,
MASH related, but it's like, dang, we gotta respect the legends. So
well, I mean, yeah, I was telling you a little bit about this before, but I'm going to say it again for our audience. Jimmy Buffett was like really tight with the Eagles. If I had
oh
to
yeah,
guess,
yeah.
like who specifically, I'd probably say Don Henley. Although I could be wrong, but I mean, they were all like tight. I mean, like I told you, when the Eagles as a band were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a huge fucking deal, they had Jimmy Buffett open for them, which I mean it should give you some idea of just how close these guys were. So yeah, and
Dang.
of course, I really did like his songs, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna miss him
The
an
more
awful
the
lot.
older, like when I was younger, Jimmy Buffett's songs were like, cheeseburger in paradise, fruitcakes, such weird songs. But the older I've gotten, some of his more like somber songs, I'm like, dang, he's like a really good storyteller and lyricist, like genuinely. For as
Yeah,
goofy as he is sometimes, there are some songs that like, damn, they're kind of deep. Very in a weird way, I think, and this is going to be a weird comparison to make. Weirdly similar energy or similar dichotomy to me, like Robin Williams, where he can be very goofy, but when he's being sincere, it's genuine sincerity, and like you can tell.
Goodwill
Like
Hunting.
weird similarity there between the two. Very different lives and career fields, but that same kind of like very silly and fun, but also very sincere.
Right.
So yeah, Jimmy Buffett. on on that note, we're moving on to MASH now, and I do want to say I've got a lot of you guys have mentioned that you like the like BS catching up at the beginning of the episode, which is glad to hear, because at some point I look down and go, damn, Ethan and I have literally just been having a regular Discord call that we usually do for like 15 minutes and not talking about MASH. So
I do not believe that they actually like it. I don't. I
no,
refuse to believe that.
we've gotten positive comments saying that people like the candor and kind of the dumb not. We've had people say that they enjoy both the MASH part and the non-MASH part. And
Yay.
the people who don't like the non-MASH part probably just skip ahead to the MASH part and don't say anything, which is also, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But moving on to MASH, we do have a little bit of follow-up, and I know it's been a while. For us, it's been a while since we recorded this episode, so we got to kind of jog our memory. Our last one was Dr. Pierce and Mr. Hyde.
Right.
And we did get some feedback from Donut Eater on YouTube,
Yo!
one of the YouTube commenters. We kind of asked like, what was going on? Is Hawkeye being stupid? Why is Hawkeye just not going to sleep? Like, clearly there's other doctors that can cover. Clearly the other doctors got to sleep. What's going on with Hawkeye? Is it mental? Is it ego? Is it both? Donut Eater responded to us on that. He said, for the question, I agree. It's a lot due to Hawkeye's ego. We have many episodes where doctors have to work long hours. They don't have a choice in the matter. But even then, we see them work around that and try to balance the doctor's health and that of the patients. He says in future episodes, he said it might be OR. We see Trapper take a nap between patients. We see Trapper, Henry, and Frank tell Hawkeye to get rest. And that's saying a lot. And with Henry in particular, whatever you think about his command abilities, I think he in particular would have a handle on this kind of thing, knowing people's limits, how much they can or couldn't push through for the patients. Not to mention, he'd have the most intel on when patients would be incoming, so he'd know when his doctors can go get rest now during a slight lull, in order to prepare for a period down the line where it'll pick up again. So he's basically saying Hawkeye's being stupid, Henry's ordering him to sleep, and Henry should know best when Hawkeye could and could not get rested. Which I agree. Like, some of it is like Hawkeye's like a mental thing, but it does seem like a lot of that was just Hawkeye being like, I am Dr. Perfect, I must perform or people will die.
Yeah.
But excellent thoughts from Donut Eater. With that being said, we are on to this week's episode that we are discussing. Season 2, Episode 6, Him. Aired October 20th, 1973. Written by Marc Mandel, Larry Gelbart, and Laurence Marks, and directed by William Wiard. Let me pull this up real quick. We've seen episodes by William Wiard before. He directed. Did I not write down any information on William Wiard? I'm an idiot. So yeah, directed by William Wiard. He did Henry Please Come Home, Tuttle, Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, and The Long John Flat from season 1. And he did for season 2. He directs this episode and the episode immediately after this that we'll talk about next time. And then that will be the end of his MASH run. He only did 6 episodes for MASH, so this is number 5 of 6 for William. And I'll say, based on the episodes he's done, Henry Please Come Home was decent. Tuttle is a fan favorite. Sometimes You Hear the Bullet is fantastic. Man, yep. I think I'm just now realizing Tuttle and Sometimes You Hear the Bullet were directed by the same person. Huh.
That's
both cool and strange to me. And then The Long John Flap, which is a fun one. So yeah, good run for William. And then the writers are Marc Mandel, Larry Gelbart, and Laurence Marks. And for those of you who have been paying attention, Larry Gelbart is one of the main show writers. He's the main guy helming the ship for the show. And technically on every episode, he is put as adapted for television by Larry Gelbart, but it seems redundant to name him on every single episode. The reason he's being named on this episode is, and I don't know if this is a quirk of IMDb, but I'm pretty sure he got listed differently on this show as specifically a writer for this episode. So he had more of a direct hand in this episode. That's why I wanted to make sure he was mentioned again. But yeah, Marc Mandel, I don't know who he is because he only has 2 whole writing credits, one for this episode of MASH and one for an episode of Dusty's Trail, also in the same year. So he went out to Hollywood, wrote 2 episodes of a TV show, and worked at Wendy's. I don't know what happened after that.
Listen, I respect the man. I've been to LA too. I would not want to stay around any longer than it would possibly take to write 2 episodes of anything.
And then, obviously, we've talked about him a lot because he is the most prolific writer of this season, Laurence Marks. This is his 9th episode of MASH. Ones that you would recognize that he's done before are 5 O'Clock Charlie, Sticky Wicket, Radar's Report, The Moose. All ones that we've enjoyed talking about at length. So the episode opens up in surgery, as most episodes do. Hawkeye and Trapper are bantering. Frank is dropping fragments in his patient because, of course, he is. As the surgery goes on, we get a new patient, and that patient is a 5-year-old Korean boy named Kim, played by a young man by the name of Edgar Miller. He has no credits on IMDb except this episode of MASH, so good job, Edgar, which is a strange name for a Korean child, but you know what? We'll roll with it. He's acting very well as an unconscious child. Trapper is a little mortified at the fact that there's a 5-year-old in surgery, considering he has a 5-year-old at home, but his wounds are superficial. Hawkeye deals with him relatively quickly and easily. Jump ahead to mess tent. The guys get some food and are talking to Radar, trying to find out where'd this young man come from. And Radar is surprisingly a little kind of blunt, being like, maybe they're trying to be like, hey, where'd this kid come from? What village? Who are his parents? And Radar's like, I don't know. It's a war zone, dude. Kids get lost. People go missing. What are you talking about? So, yeah, lots of very helpful Radar is being here.
Well, I guess even Radar can't know everything, so.
Radar can't know everything. Radar is also eating an interesting amount of food.
Yeah.
I'm watching him eat, and it's very...
The word food, of course, being used very liberally here.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so Hawkeye and Trapper talk to Radar and say, well, if his folks are missing, or his village is missing, or his family is missing, can we call Red Cross, MPs, the local villages, and headquarters? And Radar's like, fairly, I think Radar's like, hey, that's a lot. That's a lot of people to try to contact on top of all the other stuff I do. And I'll get to it when I can. But that is a big ask of Radar. A lot of the things they ask Radar are a big ask of Radar. But Radar is an excellent human being and will come through. So I have no doubt that Radar will find answers to this this conundrum. And of course, Trapper and Hawkeye have to pour salt on the wound of saying that if Radar does this quickly, he'll find something special in his pencil box, a tiny little nurse all his own, which is just creepy. I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't know why. I don't like that. Makes me uncomfortable. Save me, Ethan. Help.
No.
No? All right. I'm stuck here on my own.
Yeah.
So, we jump to post-op where Kim, who I have to mention, I'm going to call him Kim. We don't realize his name is Kim until the last 2 minutes of the episode. Fun fact. But his name is Kim. We're going to refer to him as Kim. So Kim is recovering with all the wounded soldiers in post-op, and Hawkeye is reading. I couldn't find any information on if the book he's reading is real or fictional or something that just got written down for him to read as a joke. It's probably just some, dime store, boiler pot novel. But Hawkeye is reading what can only be termed as smut to this child.
You found posters from a fictitious air show in a movie.
I know. I couldn't find that the book that Hawkeye was reading was real or not. If anyone wants to go deeper into the rabbit hole than I could get into, please by all means share that information with us and on the various social medias. But I have a feeling it has to be fake for the show, just because the words written that Hawkeye is reading just seem to be excessively comedic. And a chorus of 500 angels saying, "You made me love you," the Cole Porter arrangement. And then she came close, and I could smell her perfume. It made me want to leave my wife and children, and I'm not even married. "Hi, gorgeous," I said. Then somebody hit me with a piano, and the floor came up and smothered me. I love it so much. I might make that my online dating profile, like bio, and see if anyone gets it. That might be fun. Or it's a great way to make people leave me alone. I don't know.
Well, both sound like good options to me.
Frank and Hot Lips, aka Margaret, are upset that Hawkeye is reading this smut to the child. Hawkeye calls them the Bad Fairy and the Wicked Witch and claims it doesn't matter, he can't even understand English anyway. Frank then argues he's disturbing the other patients, and Hawkeye asks, "Do you want me to stop the entire room?" No. I'll be honest though, if there was any fictional character, if I could go back in time with Audible, I would have Alan Alda as Hawkeye read a bunch of dime store novels for Audible. That'd be freaking hilarious to me. But so not only are they arguing over that, Trapper comes in, and I take issue with Trapper in this scene, and I know that's a hot take considering the conversations we're going to have later in this episode about Trapper and Wayne Rodgers. Given how Trapper feels about Kim in another 5 minutes, even if it's for a gag, why is he trying to give this Korean child pickled onions and anchovies? Like, Trapper, no, Trapper. And this is, I'm gonna nitpick this point because it's my major nitpick of the episode that if I were in Larry Gelbart's position as the head honcho, I'd look at this part of the script and I'd rather see Trapper kind of ignore Hawkeye, Frank, and Margaret and be a little more like sincere, considering how he feels about Kim and wanting to adopt him in another 5 minutes.
Okay,
do you get what I mean, though?
I get what you mean, but this is like if you could travel back in time and give a medieval peasant a single flavor blasted goldfish cracker, and just watch that reaction. Are you telling me you wouldn't?
You wouldn't give a potentially orphaned Korean child pickled onions and anchovies?
Well, it'd be funny. You know,
I think having Trapper offer up anchovies and pickled onions makes this scene funnier and goofier, like the scene is. There is part of me that wishes, like, if you're gonna do this whole arc with Trapper wanting to adopt the kid, yeah, he doesn't know that the kid's family doesn't exist right now because Radar's still finding that out. But I think it would be a nice lead-in to have him, like, Hawkeye's trying to be funny and Frank and Margaret are trying to be controlling, and he just ignores them and, like, offers the kid a candy bar or something. Like, he's like, you can, if they did something where they showed Trapper kind of being not serious, but kind of ignoring Hawkeye's jokes and wanting to, verbally spar with Frank and Margaret and kind of focus on the kid. I think that would have been a better overall choice for the story. And that's my one nitpick for the episode, is that Trapper being weird right now, it's like hitting the wrong key on a piano while playing a piece. It's like, it doesn't make the whole piece wrong. It's just, dang, that one thing was just a little eh. I don't know. That's my personal takeaway from it. It's like, if they were gonna fully commit to the whole rest of the storyline, I wish they kind of started with this little point. But again, I'm nitpicking because I can, because this is this is our podcast and I'm allowed to nitpick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fuck them.
But yeah, Trapper tries to give him pickled onions and anchovies, and again, I've made it clear I kind of agree with Margaret on this point. No. Margaret and Frank, no, do not give the child the anchovies and pickled onions, please.
Breakfast of champions.
Yeah, they're arguing. Henry has to get involved and tell them they need to behave like adults and doctors. He understands that everyone is very concerned about the child, but y'all need to chill. Like, we'll let the kid recover. We'll deal with this later. I do like in the scene immediately after, though, in the swamp, that they have Trapper making a balloon toy for the kid. So I like that they led into him doing stuff for the kid right after this, but I kind of wish it started off a little different. But again, nitpicking. So we flash to the swamp. Hawkeye can tell that Trapper is, like, really attached to this kid, because the one difference is Trapper has kids, Hawkeye does not. I believe he has 2 daughters, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
There's a interesting side conversation of whether or not bagpipes get pregnant, and Trapper's answer is, of course they do, right after they make those funny noises. Which is great. I love it. But yeah, Hawkeye, and this is something I like about Hawkeye. I've talked some smack about Hawkeye in the past, but this is one of the things I do like about Hawkeye, and something that I think he imparts on another character in the show that we'll talk about in the future. He is very emotionally aware of other people. Most of the time. Not all of the time. There are some times where Hawkeye is very stupid about the being emotionally aware of people around him. But for the most part, he is reasonably good at tuning into what others around him are going through, and he recognizes, hey, Trapper is smitten by this Korean boy, and wants to make sure he's doing well and having a good time, as good of a time as he can while recovering from shrapnel wounds in a field hospital. But at that point, Radar comes in, spills the beans that he can't find any information. There's no one's looking for a missing kid. There's no families reporting anything. The Red Cross knows nothing. The MPs know nothing. The local government knows nothing. They got nothing. To the point where he says, well, wherever he's from, it ain't no more, and whoever they are, they ain't either anymore. And Hawkeye and Trapper seem surprised by this, and Radar's like, what, in a war? Like, yeah, this is newsflash, guys. Unfortunately, this is a reality. Sip of my Pepsi real quick.
Beppis.
Cherry Beppis.
Oh.
So, on that note, Hawkeye and Trapper are like, well, what do we do now? And Radar mentions Henry is doing that thing currently. Now, Ethan, I will ask you this question.
Yay!
You are Henry Blake, because ultimately Henry is in command.
Okay.
As much as we love Hawkeye and Trapper, they are not the decision-making authority in the camp. You have an orphaned Korean 5-year-old in your camp. You have no information on what you should do with him once he is well enough to travel. What do you do? What's your next course of action?
I immediately give him pickled onions and mackerel.
And that's why you're not in charge of anything. No. I say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So to that end, honestly, oh man, that's a tough one. Because the right choice is, of course, to try and find his family. But how are you going to do that in an active war zone? How are you going to do that efficiently in an active war zone?
And this is where I'm a little annoyed at Hawkeye and Trapper, because I think Henry is doing the right thing. They know an orphanage with a person they trust who runs the orphanage, who can care for a child a lot better than a military hospital can. Calling Sister Teresa is the correct move. And Hawkeye and Trapper seem to be very annoyed at Henry for doing this, and I get it. Going to an orphanage as a small child, not great. I'm not doubting that. But keeping small child in an active combat unit near the front lines with a bunch of, let's be honest, drunk army doctors, not a good choice.
Better than the alternative.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, better than letting him wander through an active war zone, but still. So Henry is talking to Sister Teresa. He mentions the kid. He mentions that once he's well, we need somewhere for him to go. We have no information on him, his family, where he's from, nothing. And he thinks he'd be better off with her, which he is not wrong. I agree with Henry on all those points. Which is also why I'm a little annoyed at Hawkeye and Trapper for like getting annoyed with Henry at that, because Henry makes a good point. After Hawkeye and Trapper argue about putting a 5-year-old in an orphanage and what's that going to do to him, Henry just looks at them and goes, do you have a better idea? And again, this isn't quite as dramatic as some of the previous moments we've had with Henry, but this is where when people say Henry is a dumb commander, I'm like, no, he's a civilian that the army made in charge of stuff that a civilian shouldn't be in charge of. He's not a bad commander. He's just maybe a little over his head. But he's not bad, because he absolutely should point blank ask Hawkeye and Trapper, what are you doing? Do you have a better idea than put him in the care of someone who will make sure he is safe and well cared for? Because if you do, please tell me. Like, that again, that's another, we love Hawkeye and Trapper all the time. I do want to nitpick them where it's appropriate to nitpick them, because this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
But what do you think? Do you think, what are your thoughts on this? Because I feel like I've been ranting. Please.
I don't think I can say anything better than you've said it. From a genuine, unemotional standpoint, the best thing to be done for this kid is to try and find him his own family. Fog of War.
Mm-hmm.
Henry is objectively correct. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. I love, they call Henry a villain, and Henry defends himself saying, I'm not a villain. I don't tie girls to buzzsaws, and I do not put banana peels in front of the old folks' home. Like, okay. There's our standards.
Although, hold on. Let's talk about that.
Oh, no. Do not put banana peels in front of the old folks' home.
How about in the old folks' home?
I feel I need to point it out now. I really do need to point it out. Not only is Henry's doll on the table, the giant frickin' diesel engine piston is still on the table.
Ah,
all the way back from like episode 1 or 2, where we were wondering what the hell that was on Henry's desk. It is very clearly a large piston head.
yep.
But anyway.
Piston heads can be turned into ashtrays.
Oh no. That's a deep cut for some people.
By the way, the residents of the old folks' home are free, and you can just like take them.
No, do not take. No.
I'm just saying, my grandmother is currently in one. I go see her once, twice a week, and the security is abysmal. Like, you could walk out with all of them if you so chose, and they wouldn't notice.
Please stop kidnapping the elderly. Please don't.
You can't kidnap the elderly. You elder-nap the elderly.
On the note of the elderly, and I apologize in advance to the person I'm about to mention. My dad now qualifies for the senior citizen menu at Denny's, and I don't know how I feel about that. I saw his birthday.
Would like to know.
His birthday was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he's like, he made the joke, yeah, I can order off the senior citizen menu. I'm like, oh my god, you're 55. Wow, like it hit me a little bit, but anyway, that's a completely separate. How did we get here? Why are you talking about stealing old people? I'm so confused.
Why aren't you?
So, in what is unfortunately spoilers a tiny bit, one of the few times we hear a trapper inner monologue in a letter to someone. We cut scenes after Henry asks, "Do you have a better idea?" We cut scenes to Trapper writing his wife very sincerely, asking her and telling her about Kim and asking her, would you be willing to adopt this child? Which is, whoa. Who sat down and said, hey, you know what we're going to do on this episode? Crank Trapper's character development to 11. Like,
about damn time.
Because here's the thing. I've said this before. I love all of MASH. I love all the characters. I think they all bring something to the table. Trapper up to this point has been Hawkeye's sidekick, very goofy. I'd say not as passionate as Hawkeye about some things, but also is a little quicker to anger over in a certain way than Hawkeye. Like we saw with Radar's report, he will get potentially, I don't want to say violently angry, because we haven't seen that yet from Trapper, but he gets angry enough to consider doing something incredibly inappropriate. Not just like, punching someone out or something, but like morally, ethically inappropriate, which is that's not a trait solo to Trapper, as we'll find out going through this show. But Trapper and Hawkeye operate slightly differently, but I love that we're getting kind of more depth to Trapper, and especially, again, weirdly, similarly to the conversation we had with Jimmy Buffett and Robin Williams, it all comes full circle. He's very goofy, but when he is sincere, he is very sincere. And I love that we're getting to see a little more. But he writes his wife and says, look, we don't know where his parents are. We think they're dead. We don't know that he has any other family. The daughters would be happy to have a brother. This is a decision we need to both make. It's in your hands. All that. And Hawkeye says it's beautiful. And Trapper asks, yes, it's beautiful, but is it a mistake? And Hawkeye points out, how can it be a mistake giving a kid his life, basically? Which, there is an episode much further down the line where we get to see kind of the bureaucratic and social part of what it means to adopt a child from a foreign country, especially in a time of war, because that's always kind of an interesting, contentious topic, believe it or not. But what do you think of Trapper's decision to want to adopt Kim? Let's unpack Trapper finally. Let's do it.
I'm trying to find a way to phrase my question.
Also, if you think this is going to be the most difficult and deep question I asked tonight, you are very wrong.
So okay, so for my sake, could you rephrase the question a little bit?
Okay, you're right. Let me rephrase. Do you think Trapper's decision to write his wife and want to adopt Kim, do you think it's out of left field? Is it a rash decision? Do you think he took the time to think about it? Is this an emotional gut reaction, or do you think I don't know how I want to word the question, because I'm not saying, I'm in no way going to argue in any way that Trapper wanting to adopt this child so that he can live a better life and not be alone the rest of his existence with no family, that it is a noble, beautiful act. But is he jumping the gun? Have they exhausted all other possibilities of trying to find family or a better situation for him?
So yeah, okay. Here's what I think. I think that as of right now, he has not fully thought it through. I also think that he is a man in a war zone who, albeit I would argue, does a little bit better job of covering up his contempt for where he is than Hawkeye. I think Trapper is better at choking it down, at least at this stage. Hawkeye's very vocal about it. You know, Trapper's just
in my mind, Trapper's more of a it is what it is. The episode I go back to for that is the ceasefire episode, where he's like, okay, maybe it's a ceasefire, but more than likely we're going to still be here in a month and a half. Like, I'm not going to get worked up over it until I know it's a real thing. Like, he's more of a go with the flow, it is what it is kind of guy, more than. But yeah, I do think he handles the overall being in Korea situation a little better than Hawkeye.
So, you know, it's already come up that he's got a 5-year-old of his own at home, and you know, 2 daughters. One's 5 years old, and a wife, and it's a war zone. You're thousands of miles away from home. The only way you can talk to these people is letters, and with snail mail in the 1950s, I'd imagine at least 2 weeks to get to the States.
Yeah, probably.
I think he's kind of found something that reminds him of his own children. And he is maybe creating a problem, exacerbating a problem where there might not be one.
True, but counterpoint, and we haven't gotten to this part yet. Counterpoint, once his wife gives the green light, he tells Hawkeye and Father Mulcahy, I feel like my being here is serving a greater purpose than just fixing the wounded. I was here at the right place at the right time to offer this orphaned kid a home and a family where he wouldn't have had one. Like, yeah. I think of it more that he sees that if I don't do something now, my opportunity to act will not exist. Because in another week, he's going to be poofed away to some orphanage.
Well, and that's a good point. And I suppose in that time, he's also been given a lot of time to think about it clearly. You know, even if it started out as a rash decision, by the time he gets the green light, it is no longer a rash decision.
Yeah. So we get this lovely montage of Kim being watched and basically babysat round robin style by the various members of camp. And I will say, again, this is the more pragmatic, practical, logical part of me. He could have just stayed with Sister Teresa during this time. Like, I understand that everyone wants, you know, to have adorable Korean child hang out at camp, but also maybe he could have gone and hung out with Sister Teresa at the orphanage for the time being. Just a thought, just a playful thought, but he didn't, so we get this montage. Can we appreciate Wayne Rodgers' practical coin trick on camera? Can we appreciate that for a second? That is a 100% practical trick that they did on camera.
Yeah, a pretty impressive one too. Like, you know, Wayne Rodgers has got some sleight of hand, I guess. Fingers of surgeon.
Yeah. I've always noticed the coin trick because it's clearly like a focal point of the scene. But I really stopped and was like, no, he practically did the flick the coin up the sleeve trick. And I kind of love it. Let's see, who else? We get Hawkeye having to take him to the bathroom. We get Klinger playing catch with him in One hell of an outfit.
We have him and Radar jockeying for Tiger the Bear.
Oh, that's right. Gary Burroff named him Tiger. I forgot about that fact. Yeah. Even though I'm the one that shared it. Even Henry's involved in stalling Sister Teresa, to which Kim is very good at nearly sabotaging. We have, and I'm going to say this right now, I did not find time to reach out to our half Korean correspondent, Tyler. I'm just going to say this right now. If you thought Margaret was speaking actual good Korean, I have some news for you.
Barris does not mean Sam talk.
Here's the thing. Samcom, I couldn't. Google Translate is not a reliable source. I'm going to say that right now. I don't trust Google Translate. When you type bears into Google Translate to Korean, it does not come up as Samcom. And when you type table in, it certainly does not come up as siktak, or vice versa. A very similar word, siktak, means fuck in Turkish, but I am not going to trust Google Translate as a definitive source of Korean translation. But I cannot say that Margaret is speaking accurate Korean. I will reach out to our Korean correspondents, and if anyone out there listening has better information on this language of Korean than I do, as a person who doesn't speak it, please let us know. Because the reason I bring this, I'm pointing this out, is not just because it might be an error, but because it's something we're gonna highlight later in future episodes. That is a key difference between Margaret and Frank, is Margaret is willing to learn and be a better nurse, essentially, by learning the local language. And it's something that actually comes up, and we see she's actually able to speak Korean by later seasons. So I think it's kind of interesting that there's like that tiny bit of character continuity for Margaret. So that's why I'm curious, like, is she correctly speaking Korean here?
Yeah,
based on my research, she is not. But I'm going to check with someone who actually knows the Korean language, and we'll get back to the audience on that.
Well, here's a phrase I never thought I'd utter. Where's a K-pop stan when you need him?
Oh, no.
I tell you what, Margaret is just very motherly in this. I mean, goddamn. Like, she's
she do have them maternal instincts.
Yeah. You don't think that she's one of those what do they call? You don't think she's a whammon, is she?
She might. Ethan, I have a newsflash for you. Margaret Houlihan is in fact a woman.
Throw the whole show away.
Oh my god. Oh. Hi. Best Care Anywhere Legal Department. Ethan's an idiot and is joking. That's a joke. These are jokes in a video game.
Yeah.
Frank interrupts because he wants to have the weekly discussion. Well, what about Wednesday? Well, I'm not counting short talks. I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh, it's gross. I hate it.
Oh.
And I love that Frank is on the same maturity level as a 5-year-old. They're sticking tongues out at each other. I love it. Hawkeye and one of the nurses had a lovely rendezvous early in the morning while Trapper was sleeping, quote unquote, which, man, list of reasons why I do not want to ever have a house with roommates. Not to disparage any of my friends and your friends, mutual friends who you shared house with. I'm good. I don't need to know about your personal love life. I don't need to know. I don't need. Nope. I'm good. You know what? I'm good.
Actually, yeah. I've got a couple of funny anecdotes about that very
I'm
thing.
sure you do. Moving right along, because I want to stay friends with these. Because I want to stay friends with these people. No.
Oh, it's not what they did. It's what I did.
Moving right along. No. And this comes up in the future. It's like, damn, they really do be living within 5 feet of each other in a tent. and just be doing life. Damn, that's crazy. But anyway, Father Mulcahy comes in looking for Trapper, and I love Trapper's reveal of, nope, I'm supposed to be asleep. And you see Hawkeye and the nurse are like, whoops. That's not awkward at all. But Father Mulcahy comes in with the letter for Trapper from his wife, and it's good news. His wife says he's about to become the father of a 5-year-old Korean boy. Hawkeye hands out cigars. Trapper has the realization of, maybe this is why I came to Korea. And Father Mulcahy hits him with that's the beginning of faith, Trapper. And I love Hawkeye's like, Father, you scored a big win today. Don't push it. I love that Father Mulcahy is kind of a way that you can poke fun at religion a little bit, but because he's such a good sport and so good humored, he can be that kind of, he's a good sounding board for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so, and there's a lot to unpack going on in this scene, and there's a lot to unpack with Wayne Rodgers and Trapper that I want to do at the end of the episode. But we've come to the point before we get to the last third of this episode, the big finale, the climactic action scene that we're gonna get. There is a very interesting and deep question. I figured, you know what? We've been doing this podcast a year and a half. It's time to start making people uncomfortable.
Hell yeah.
Hey, Ethan.
Yo.
Do you want kids?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Hang on. Let me preface. In all seriousness, I'm going to be 29 in a few months. You are 23, correct?
Yep.
I'm going to be honest. I was technically present as a 1 month pregnancy at my parents' wedding when my dad was 25. Obviously, times are different. My middle brother and his wife had their first kid, I think, when he was 21. Or maybe even younger than that. I don't remember for sure off the top of my head. But, and obviously the economy is different. The world is different. The socioeconomic status of the average person in America is different. But yes, no, do you want kids? Why or why not? I feel like we should answer that.
I've actually given this a lot of thought lately as I, get questions from my close family why I haven't entered another long-term relationship yet. The answer is I'm still fucked up from the last one, but they don't need to know that. I've given it a lot of thought, and I'll tell you what. I do because I really think, I don't know. I think I could be a good father, but even if that's not the case, I want a child. I want to continue the Wilson bloodline. But I am such a fucking nutcase. I am so batshit goddamn crazy. I think it is bordering on child abuse to have a kid of my own and pass down all of my negative traits. So I think I would adopt. I think I would adopt. Preferably a young child. I know everybody wants the babies, but I'd go like 5 or so.
Yeah, adoption gets weird because now you're like, so for me, I'm kind of in the same boat. Yes, I would love to have kids. I think that's, again, ignoring all the other factors we stated earlier, it would be nice to have kids. Once you add in the socioeconomic stuff, then it's like, well, I'm clearly not going to have kids right now because I can barely afford to keep myself afloat, and I'm not willing to offer a less than good experience for any child that I bring forth into this planet.
Right.
But then there's a lot of people who are like, I feel irresponsible bringing a child into the world at this point because the world be kind of fucked up right now.
Yeah.
Not like it was any better in name any period previously in history, but
well, except this time, you and me are on the verge of getting drafted because some Eastern superpower decides to do some fuck shit.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, when are the Eastern superpowers not doing some fuck shit? Like, name a period in history. But in all seriousness, there's like the climate stuff and the socioeconomic stuff and the social stuff and the there's all that. But ignoring all that, yeah, it would be nice. But then adoption's weird because now it's a noble and beautiful thing to do. I'm not arguing with that. But there part of me is like and again, this is the people pleaser in me. I want to adopt all of them. Not in like a I'm hoarding children for government benefits way, but it's like it feels weird to walk into an orphanage and go that one and leave. You know what I mean? Like you won the lottery. You get a good life. You know what I mean? Like it feels weird. And for anyone out there who are currently rubbing their temples, going, "Oh, you dumb millennials talking about raising children," I get it. We're dumb millennials, but there is this crossroads of I would love to have kids. But much like owning a home, not living paycheck to paycheck, it's one of those things where I cannot right now see how I get there and be financially stable and happy with that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. Like I would love it, whether it's through, natural means or adoption, whatever. I would love it, but there's like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and to our audience's credit, I get it. We're stupid. I started out this episode talking about how I roasted all the brake pads off my car because it was driving at full throttle for the last 1,000 miles. Why I have no business having a child. But, those hormones be making me do weird things. Like, sure, I want to fuck, but I also,
Jesus Christ.
Maybe a little mini Ethan running around wouldn't be so bad.
No, and it's I'm trying to think how I want to word this because this could be interpreted very not correctly. One of the reasons I know I want kids is I'm in an interesting position where I think you know this about me and the audience who has listened for any length of time. I'm still a registered leader in my scout unit. From once I turned 18, I signed up as an adult leader and I figured, I'll hang around a year or two. Here we are 10 years later. I'm on the committee. I help lead trips, yada, yada, yada. It's the thing I do. I don't go to church. I'm not a member of the Rotary Club. I'm not a member of the local PTA. I am an assistant scoutmaster. That's my extracurricular activity that gives back to the community. Because I have been with the unit so long, I have, in a weird way, not they are my surrogate children way, because that's kind of that's too far. That's not what it is. But I have had the experience of having a 10 or 11-year-old join the unit and watch them go through the whole scouting trail and grow up and earn their Eagle Scout and go off and go do cool stuff. And now they're 18, 19, 20, whatever. And they're, I'll see them when they are in town, or I'll see on Facebook that they're doing this thing. And I do get this sense of like, pride is close to it, but like, dang, I am part of that young person's, mentorship, life journey, whatever you want to call it. And it do be making me feel away. It do be making me feel slightly paternal. And it's like, dang, I do be feeling it's part of the reason I enjoyed working at camp for so long, because you'd see these same kids come back year to year. Like, I think I told you the last year I worked at camp, I had 2 kids take rifle shooting who had literally taken the rifle shooting class 4 times. They earned it the first time, but they came back and kept taking it because they liked me teaching the class so much. And I mentioned, this is probably my last year at Winston. It's like, oh, that's crazy. You were teaching rifle shooting. This is our last year coming to camp, but you were teaching it when we first started coming, our first year when we came to camp. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go over here and cry now. Like,
yeah. I'll tell you what, when I visited camp last, one of the new staff members who I, won't name because I'm not trying to dox anyone, and I were talking because I went over to the nature program area where I worked, and I go, man, it's so good to see you back back on staff, and he goes, well, yeah, dude, I mean, you were a big reason I wanted to staff. And I go, what? He tells me
What?
this
You mean I
story.
had a positive mental influence on you? What are
Yeah.
you talking about? Have you met me?
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, this one day we had to take a test to earn our merit badge, and I came back after the fact during some free time to see how I did, and you and the other nature person were sitting in there just shooting the breeze, and you let me come in and sit down and hang out with you guys for a bit, and just gave me a really good time at a time I wasn't having such a great day. So really meant a lot. And I was like, what the hell? I'm not supposed to be a good influence.
No, but again, I think you mentioned it in a very interesting way, but I think you and I, me more because I'm a few years older, but I think you and I are getting to that point where those dude hormones go from more lustful in nature to more paternal in nature.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, hi, we're not a science podcast, but I definitely am getting to the point where it's like, dang, I enjoy teaching, I enjoy mentoring, and in a way that does get me thinking about, dang, one day I would like to have a son or a daughter, or I don't know. It's and again, I'm sure there's older generations who have had kids who are listening to this podcast going, the youth, they know nothing. But I don't know. I think it's not something our generation particularly talks about too much, because you mentioned another part. There is that like social pressure to have kids, which is like, yeah, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it just to check a box, right? Like I'm not gonna have a kid just because my mom wants a grandbaby. You know what I mean? Like that seems weird to me.
Well, the good news for me, at least, is when I decide I want to have kids, I can use the same pickup line I'm using now, which is, of course,
oh no,
damn, baby, you got them childbirthing hips.
Why do you make me have to edit you so much?
I'm joking. I respect women. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. I just think I'm funny. I'm not funny, but I think I am. It's a horrible combination.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, and there's a lot of other factors, and I'm sure there are other episodes of this show, believe it or not, where we can get into that a little bit more, both having children, raising children, what happens when you're separated from your kids, all that sort of stuff. But I felt like this is a decent episode to like just broach that conversation, to have kind of a baseline when we got to future episodes. So yeah, kids.
Let's make the listener uncomfortable with how candid we become. That's what I say.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the episode. But okay, to be fair, hang on, I'm gonna pull this up real quick, because you don't believe me when I say the audience says nice things about us.
You're right, I don't.
Right now. I will read you one of our hi, quick side tangent while we promote the Patreon. One of our patrons, for those of you who don't know, we have a Patreon, and for those of you that also don't know, on Patreon we can post stuff on there like any other social media, and people who are patrons can comment on there. We aren't exclusively always going to just read Patreon comments, but it's another way you can get a message in front of us to see that it gets read. And I'm going to read this one because it is pertinent to these like side tangents we go off on. From one of our patrons, Mike Jameson, also past and future guest of the show. He says, I feel as if this is a comment on Dr. Pierce and Mr. Hyde. I feel as if MASH, the good and bad, often brings out the best in people and often inspires them to share with other fans. That is what has drawn me to this podcast. I appreciate both of you sharing your personal stories. You have made a great podcast even better with your candor and honesty, and I thank you both for that. So as uncomfortable as some of these conversations are to have, I like having them because they are things that MASH has made me think about, genuinely, especially as I've gotten older watching the show. So, yeah.
Aww. Thank
you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Means a lot. Can't wait to have you. Help me convince Anthony to let me do an Easy Rider episode.
And I'm glad that I tabbed over here because I did not see. There's a comment about this episode that I'll read when we get to the audience review section.
Oh, hell yeah.
But anyway. Where were we? So yeah, having kids, we'd love to do it, but there are concerns. It's a big decision to make. Not like a buying house or buying a new car decision. It is I am bringing another life that I will be responsible and can potentially fuck up. Yeah. We'll get into that more in future, but I kind of wanted to broach it this time. So yeah, hopefully we didn't make anyone too uncomfortable or stressed out. But anyway, so Trapper is super excited. He essentially has a new son. Now he just has to deal with the army red tape, which we'll see in the future. In a future episode, we're going to see the army red tape and the Korean government red tape is extensive. But Hawkeye hands out cigars, which I'm jealous of because I have 3 cigars sitting in front of me, and 2 of them I'm not allowed to smoke yet because they are technically not a public. The joys of working on a cigar podcast, you get special privilege. But go listen to Beyond the Humidor. We then pan over to, it's been a while since we've had a good Margaret and Frank romance scene. I feel like if you were going to add it to an episode, this seems like a weird one, but you know what? It serves a purpose. Margaret and Frank are being all romantic.
They're just having one of those short talks. I don't see
just one of those short talks. Well, hang on, because in a minute Frank says, "Margaret, how do you feel about outdoor discussions?"
This talk is not short. I'd say it's perfectly average.
Oh God. Also, they're supposed to be babysitting a child, by the way, a 5-year-old child. Remember that. Margaret is in. I'm just gonna say it. Stunning red sweater. Let's just. Yeah. It goes well with the olive drab. But once again, Frank proving that he does have a thing for. He's got a thing for ears. You can't. The man's honest about his quirks. He is
better ears than feet. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're really so beautiful. The way the sunlight shines off the hair in your ears. To which Margaret says, "Frank, do you know how exciting you are?" Which is
not
wild.
Very.
But anyway. Hawkeye and Trapper show up looking for Kim because of the good news. I like the continuity that they're still carrying their cigars from moments ago. See, it's little things like that are, I think, there's a lot of, and we've talked about this on the show before, little things like the fact that they're still carrying the cigars that Hawkeye just handed out helps the people who maybe, I don't want to say that aren't paying attention, but it helps reinforce that this is happening in sequence at the same time. This isn't a day later or something. Mm-hmm. I like when TV and movie crews pay attention to those little details. But so they ask, "Hey, where's the kid?" And Margaret and Frank aren't sure. He was here just a second ago. Dramatic pan over to Kim. Zoom out to the minefield sign.
Oh, okay. So I just gotta ask, because you're a bit of a war aficionado, a military history, something like that, whatever you want to call yourself. What the hell is the tactical purpose of a fucking minefield?
Area denial. It slows your enemy's advance. You have to stop and pick your way through it. It's basically the floor is lava. That's basically, like, it sounds dumb to say, but that's basically what it is. Floor is lava. You can't walk here.
So you just directed it the most likely way they're going to advance as a little fuck you.
Yeah. For example, current military conflict, Ukraine. I just read a thing where it's like something like it's like 5. You want to know what the average number of mines along the Russian front, the defensive line is? 5 mines per square meter. 5 mines for every 3x3 square foot or square box of land.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically an area denial tool. It creates It's barbed wire, but deadlier. It forces your enemy to go through narrow choke points. It denies your enemy an easy route to advance through. For example, if the unit had to bug out because the enemy army was advancing, that minefield gives them time to get a little further down the road before the enemy gets to where they're. It's basically slows your enemy's advance down and forces them to take a route you want them to take, basically.
Okay. I get you.
The biggest downside of minefields is once the war's over, no one's going to pay a bunch of troops to go recover them. Why would we do that?
I've seen in Ukraine, they're using, like location data, they're tagging them, they're pinning them on Google Earth, whatever, so they know where they are. Which good.
The other downside is I also believe the rock that Margaret and Frank are camping next to is the same rock that General Clayton and them hide behind in 5 o'clock Charlie, and I will find that rock. That is the Mash Blarney stone, and I'm gonna go kiss it. Anyway, no, I am taking mental note and taking screenshots of scenes like this so that when we eventually make the holy pilgrimage, we can find, because there's no way that rock's not still there. It's a fucking gigantic boulder.
We can recreate scenes. I'll buy a red turtleneck.
Oh God.
Nibble gently on my
earlobes. No.
Me and
Anyway.
Oh.
No, and the biggest problem with mines is they're easily mass producible, and they are very simple mechanical devices, and they last a long time. That's why you hear every once in a while that like some small little European town in West Europe needs to evacuate because they found an old German Teller mine in some farmer's field. Mines. Genuinely, war sucks in general, but if anything needed to be outlawed by the Geneva Convention, it's frickin' anti-personnel mines. It's ridiculous. The amount of people that get injured each year from leftover mines from previous conflicts is fucking disgusting. But
it's like that fucking Onion video that I love. Supreme Court upholds right to death by lethal injection because it's, quote, totally badass.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. And then in the Ukrainian conflict, they're using these literally and here's you want to know what the really shitty, scary thing about mines are? They're not meant to kill you. They're not meant to kill you. They're meant to critically injure you. Because if it kills you, cool, your unit's down 1 soldier, and they know there's a minefield now. But if it fucks up your leg or blows off your leg, you're still alive. Now your medic is tied up. Your at least 2 people to carry you off the field are tied up. The logistics and supply train to get you back to a field hospital is now it would actually be more efficient for the army walking into the minefield if it just killed everyone. Because ultimately a wounded soldier uses up more material and time and supply than a dead one. And yeah, mines are just so fucked up. They're just so incredibly fucked up. But yeah. And our Korean child just wandered into a field of them because, and then Trapper, who is honestly an idiot, goes running into the minefield. And I get it, Trapper. You want to make sure the child is safe. Don't run into the minefield, you fucking idiot. I understand it. I get it. I understand it. I understand the reasoning, but stop and think for 5 seconds. But yeah.
Well, to his credit, goddamn, if that isn't a fatherly response.
True. No, 100%. 100%. That's why I'm not saying Trapper's a complete idiot, but it's damn, if Trapper had stopped and thought about it for a half a second. But because my next thing is, if O'Brien is on his way, I understand. O'Brien's on his way, but the kid cannot get off that rock, or he's potentially going to die. I get it. I 100% understand. But still. So Margaret brings her Korean into practice again. Again, Kuchio, from what I could find, I could not find proof that it means stop or stay in Korean. but we're going to just roll with it because at least Margaret's making an attempt. And that's not Margaret's fault. It might be a writer thing. It might be a miscommunication thing. I could be wrong. I don't know. Hawkeye goes running into Henry's office, looking for the maps to the minefield, which Radar, don't store the minefield maps under B for boom. Store them under M for minefield or map.
We should start storing all of our sensitive documents under the noise that the thing they relate to makes.
No.
Yeah. Think about it. I would store my tax documents under C for crying.
Oh.
Or W for
No.
weeping. You know?
So they grab the maps, run out, and now it's time for lessons from scouting. Chapter 6, orienteering. I'm genuinely, like, I get that, like, military camp scouting, there's some parallels to, like, living outdoors in tents, you know, leadership skills, outdoor skills, stuff like that. Was not really expecting orienteering to become part of it, but okay. First major problem I have, Henry, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Henry, the moment you open that map and don't see a creek in a wooded area in a canyon, how do you not realize that's a map of Berlin? How do you not immediately go, oh, this is a city? Whoops. I don't understand. I'm so
okay,
confused.
Mr. Perfect. Why don't you get the small child out of the minefield? Gosh.
Anyway. So Henry is orienting Trapper through the minefield. There's some good comedy here, like I need you to take 3.5 grids to your right. And Trapper's like, what the hell's a grid? And there's the weird math of Henry's finger is 3 inches, therefore a grid's 8.5 feet. It's like a whole thing, and I love it. They finally realize the map is to downtown Berlin. Hawkeye finds the correct map, which good on Hawkeye for having better map reading skills than Henry. Also, why would you can't lay a minefield in a city. Like, you can't, I mean, you can put mines down.
Is that a fucking challenge?
I don't know. Also, why do you have minefield maps of Berlin? Those would be German maps. Anyway, I don't know.
They're like, already getting surplus.
The Americans didn't lay minefields in Germany in World War II, unless this is like Cold War, like Iron Curtain, like border minefields. I don't know. I'm so confused. Somehow Trapper got inside a circle of mines that are all 6 inches from him without stepping on one of them. Okay. And then this is the second wild helicopter stunt that they've pulled in this show. There was the desk, and now there's this. This is practical, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've watched this scene over and over. Like, did they switch out Kim for, like, a small stunt actor at some point? I don't think they did. That is clearly still Edgar Miller. That is clearly still a 5-year-old child standing in the field with Trapper. And there is not... They cut away to the group standing and watching, and then they cut back. It's still very much Trapper, and unless it's a severe trick of having an adult actor stand way far away, which I don't think it is, because there's a tree line and that minefield marker post in the shot that give you a sense of depth. I think it's still Edgar Miller in that shot.
No, I can see Edgar moving. That's him.
And then Trapper picks him up, and they go to lift away, and they cut back to the group, and you think, oh, this is when they're going to make the swap. No, I am 100% sure that is a practical. Wayne Rodgers is holding onto this ladder while clutching a 5-year-old child under a real helicopter. If someone has proof, right, wrong, or indifferent, there are a couple shots where I'm like, it seems like the 5-year-old got a little bigger. But even still, they lifted that 5-year-old child and Wayne Rodgers without a safety mechanism. It doesn't look like they're harnessed in. It looks like they're just hooked into the ladder with Wayne Rodgers' legs, and he's holding, steadying himself with his arm. I need more info. I couldn't find any information if this was a practical stunt or if it was camera tricks or what, but I am impressed.
I gotta
and a
tell
little
you,
terrified. Damn, what manager, producer, parent signed off and said, yeah, you can lift my 5-year-old into the 50 feet into the air under a helicopter in a man's arms. Yeah, it'll look good on like what the I am gobsmacked.
So do you? I'll tell you why I believe this is a full-blown practical effect. Because do you have any idea what they got away with in Hollywood in the 70s?
Oh,
Watch
so much.
Watch
so much.
any episode of The Dukes of Hazzard, and you will see that they did not value human life, no matter the age.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Well, you go back even further. There's like that really famous like outcry that people had, like what was it, back in the early 2090s, when people realized like, oh yeah, the horses that like tripped and fell in like Ben-Hur and other like old war movies, like no, they straight up died. Like those horses died. Like yeah. No, but if it is a practical effect, I'm not like shaming them for it. That's awesome, but it's like I still can't quite believe that it is a practical effect, because it has to be. Unless there is some really, really good, because here, when you see Trapper hugging Kim here after they get off the helicopter, there's part of me that's like, Kim's legs seem shorter here. Like he seems smaller now that he's on the ground. But even then, it's like I need more info.
Straight up just hire a little person?
I feel no. I feel like the shot's far enough away that you could get away, because if Wayne Rodgers is like 6 foot something, which he has to be. How tall is Wayne Rodgers? Hang on, we're deep diving.
Okay.
We're deep diving. Stand by one. Wayne Rodgers, where the fuck are you, Wayne? Get the fuck over here. Wayne Rodgers, American actor. Get over here. He's 6'4".
Oh,
Wayne Rodgers is 6'4". He's a big boy. I feel like if you had Wayne Rodgers and like a 5'2", like not young like child, but like a 5'2" actor, I feel like if shot from a distance and they're kind of like scrunched together on the ladder, they're not like standing next to each other, I feel like you could pull off like a trick of the camera and have it be an adult person with insurance.
I'm telling you right now,
I can't prove. It looks like he's holding a 5-year-old child.
When Edgar climbs up onto him, his leg is still fully stretched. He's still like standing. That is a 3-foot child.
He's got his leg like hooked over Trapper's thigh. Yeah, dude, I think it's a practical effect, and they lifted this 5-year-old into the air without a safety harness. Fuck yeah. Jesus Christ. I love that. I love it so much. Genuinely though, if anyone knows any more about that, like if you can disprove that it's not Edgar Miller under that helicopter with Wayne Rodgers, like please let us know. But I'm blown away that that's a practical effect. But anyway, yeah. Actually, I guess this is like the third crazy helicopter stunt, because they also roped Alan Alda down to a foxhole dressed as Santa Claus. So, but anyway. So Trapper saves Kim. Big happy reunion. Trapper is going to be the surrogate father to this Korean boy. He's just got to get through the army red tape. And in comes Sister Motherfucking Teresa. God damn it, Sister Teresa. Sister Teresa comes in, who is played by the way, and a special thank you to Timothy Burleson, one of our newer followers of the podcast on Instagram. He pointed this out and reminded me of it to make sure, so I made sure to have it in here. Sister Teresa is played by Maggie Roswell, who I guarantee you have heard before, Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
Her most prevalent role is a voice actor on The Simpsons, 271 episodes of The Simpsons.
Oh my word.
She does a lot of female voices, but the main characters she voices are Luann Van Houten, the mother of
Milhouse.
The nerdy Milhouse, yeah, Milhouse. The Reverend's wife, Helen Lovejoy, Elizabeth Hoover, which is one of the other ones. I believe she also voices one of the two aunts the cigarette smoking ants at some point. So yeah, all over the place, and she's been on The Simpsons since season 1.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Wild, I know. Her most recent Simpsons episode was Luann Van Houten. She's Luann Van Houten in the most recent episode, season 34, episode 21, Clown versus the Board of Education.
Is that how? Good Lord, are they the longest running animated show still?
They are, and I'm intrigued because they are. Look, I'm not a hardcore Simpsons fan.
Right.
They're clearly doing something right if they're running for this long. Same with South Park. They're clearly hitting the right chords to stay relevant. But I'm intrigued because they are hitting topics that I would recognize. Like, for example, there's a episode this season that I'm seeing here because I just pulled it up. Season 34, episode 3, Lisa the Boy Scout, which is topical.
Yeah.
But we went from having like two kids kind of thinking about Eagle projects to, in the last like 2 weeks, I've now got 8 kids like either working on a project or getting ready to work on a project. It's like, oh my God, that's so much happening. But anyway, where were we? Ah, yes, Maggie Roswell, voice on The Simpsons. She also voiced a show that I have not thought of in a long-ass time. A pup named Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
I know, right? A pup.
No.
Yeah, I know.
No.
But anyway, yes, I've not thought of a pup named Scooby-Doo in a long time. A pup named Scooby-Doo. All right, anyway. And then, man, we just got off on like 7 tangents. Anyway, and then Kim's mother is played by an actress named Momo Yashima. She will appear in a couple episodes of MASH in the future. But for now, she is just one of those, again, another unnamed Korean local. They come, Sister Teresa took a chance saying, hey, she was looking for her son. I figured, what are the odds? And who knows? Maybe I might be right. Turns out she was. Hey, hooray, Kim is reunited with his mother. And then something I see pointed out about this episode a lot. They just get in the truck and drive away. No, thank you. No. To be fair, they don't necessarily know that her son was just literally moments before rescued from a minefield. No, thank you for healing him, operating on him, taking care of him. Just, my son! She came looking for her son. I figured, what are the odds? Gets in truck, drives away. What the hell, Sister Teresa?
The runtime. The runtime, you see. But yeah.
Yes, our episode needs to end in the next 5 minutes. We don't have time for them to say thank you and hug Trapper. Nope, just tear him away and crush Trapper's hopes and dreams. And in the immediate aftermath, Trapper is looking devastated.
Fuck, wouldn't you?
Yeah, a little bit. And Hawkeye understands and tries to console him, like, who needs a kid that wanders into minefields? He'd probably cross against traffic lights. And Hawkeye's like, yeah, that's your way of not being okay with this, and that's fine. At the end scene, they commemorate his wife for being so supportive through it. Radar mentions that Kim's going to come back for a visit. And this is where I get a little, like, weird. Not weird. Like, I kind of cock my head a little bit, like, I know Trapper was specifically attached to Kim because of his situation, but then Radar offers up, there's a lot of other kids that are in the same situation that we thought Kim was. Would you be interested in adopting them? And Trapper's just kind of like, nah. Like, no, over it. But they do offer to adopt Radar. And Radar fairly says, we could try it out for a week. So.
They have the booze, you see.
They have the booze. So that's Kim. And again, we did this a few weeks back with Radar's report and Trapper. As the resident Irishman and Wayne Rodgers lover, not to say that I'm not, but as your first time, again, I know you don't believe this, but your thoughts on this are going to be way more interesting because this is your first time really hardcore watching through the series. Based on what you know of Trapper up to this point, what do you think of this episode for Trapper and Wayne Rodgers?
I thought that this was really good character development. I think that allowing Wayne Rodgers to show some goddamned emotion was a wonderful choice to make. Uh, I don't know. I'm really happy because I remember saying it several weeks ago. I want to see them give Wayne Rodgers anything. Anything. I'm not a picky man.
So now that they've given him some stuff, what would you say are his big character beats? What do you think are the big takeaways from Trapper now that we've gotten to see a little bit into his mindset, his wants, needs, desires, frustrations? Again, granted, we've only got 2 episodes of this, but that's more than we've gotten in a previous 24. So how would you describe Trapper at this point in comparison to, say, Hawkeye, Henry, all these other that we know better?
He is a family man through and through. Yes, he's a womanizer like Hawkeye.
I was about to say, excuse me, hold on, wait a minute. No, well, I understand what you're saying. He's a womanizer, but at the end of the day, he's going to go home to his wife and his 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And he's going to be very happy that they are in his life. But yes. Yeah, continue, sorry.
No, I thought it gives him a little, it rounds him out a little more because it's like we were talking about earlier. He's very go with the flow. He's here. He's going to be here. Oh, well. Type mentality, but to see him actually clutch at something that reminds him of home, it's like, oh damn, you have a few more dimensions to you, don't you?
Good. Yeah, I do like that they gave Trapper more to do this episode, and in tandem with his the story beats he got in Radar's report with the Korean POW basically being the cause of his patient's death, for better or for worse, for lack of a better direct explanation, I guess. It's nice that we get to see that, because I would say Trapper is a goofball, but he, again, like you said, he does have that kind of devil may care, look, I got drafted and sent to Korea, I'm here, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
It sucks, but, what do you... Kind of like he'll go in with Hawkeye on something to a certain point, and then he's like, it is what it is. It's going to work out or it's not. And again, I'm drawing that mostly from the ceasefire episode where he's like, look, I want the war to be over, but it's not. I'm being he's more pragmatic than Hawkeye at times. And I mentioned he and Hawkeye are both quick to anger, but I think I said in a previous episode, Hawkeye gets like righteously angry more frequently. When Trapper can also get righteously angry, but he also gets angry. Like he got shout, when in Cowboy, when Frank was keeping him from taking the Jeep, he got angry. He got like, he's typical Boston, like kid of the streets angry is I guess what I kind of want to go for. Same with the Korean POW. He got angry at the Korean POW. So I think I don't know the exact words I want to use, and I feel like I may have used some of the wrong ones, and people are going to disagree with me, which is fair because I didn't articulate it well. It shows us we know Hawkeye and Trapper are similar, but some of these Trapper episodes help us show where Trapper is more not different, like polar opposite, disagrees with Hawkeye, but how parts of their character are slightly different. They're not just carbon copies, one following the other. Trapper has his own set of traits and ideals. Because I think Hawkeye also feels for Kim, but Hawkeye was never going to offer to adopt Kim, both for practical reasons and, Hawkeye doesn't have a wife and kids to send Kim home to. And I don't think, even if Hawkeye did, I don't know that adopting a kid would be in Hawkeye's even thoughts to come up with. Whereas with Trapper, it's much more readily a thing that he came to.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know how I want to articulate. I feel like I did a bad job articulating it, but again, there hopefully in the future, I say, even though I know the entire series, we get better. We get better, and I'm not saying that we don't get this. I'm being ambiguous on purpose to annoy Ethan. We should get to see more Trapper. His reasons for why he is the way he is, for better and for worse, just as we will for Hawkeye and all the other characters. But as we've said before, it's frustrating that it took them so long to finally give Wayne Rodgers some stuff, and we can only hope they do continue to give him stuff to work with. But with that being said, Ethan, before we get to our audience, our schmaudience, what would you rate Kim? Not the child, the episode.
Oh, good, because that I did not care for that
Kim
bastard.
Wow. I was going to say
I'm
Kim was a
joking.
5 out of 5, but okay.
Well, can't be nice all. I am.
He did wander into a minefield, but he also can't read English, so we can't put that on him.
I am at a solid 3.8 out of 5.
Okay.
Good story, interesting story. I'd even say unique. Ending felt very rushed.
Yeah, but yeah.
Big fan of the Wayne Rodgers episode. I just hope they give him more.
Nice. Surprisingly, I was right there with you. I was going to give it a 3.75. I think it is a good episode. It's not overly complex. It's nothing wild, but it is a good episode for Wayne Rodgers. It's not overly complicated. It's not overly sappy. It's not overly dramatic. It is clearly someone sat down and said, hey, let's give Trapper more to work with in an episode. And they did. And it came out perfectly fine. And I like it. On that note, we're going to move to the audience. And we are very quickly, we looked at it once. We're going to look at it again. Heading over to the Patreon page, because we got a comment on the Kim episode post from one of our patrons. And before we read that, I will do a quick shout out to our two patrons, Private Jared Gallagher and Lieutenant Mike Jameson. They help pay some of the meager bills for the show and make it happen a little bit easier. So we thank them for that. If you are interested in supporting the show in that way monetarily, feel free to head over to the Patreon page, check it out. We've got tiers as low as $1. And the nice thing about Patreon is it's not a permanent thing. You can do it 1 month, shut it off the next, as you are able. Give it a thought. If not, no big deal. The best way anyone can support the podcast is just chatting with us on social media and sharing it to other people. The Patreon is an above and beyond extra bonus thing that you can do. And if you can, we appreciate it. If not, no big deal. We enjoy your listenership regardless. But on that note, Mike Jameson commented on our Kim episode. Since I have a few more characters to work with here, I wanted to say that, yeah, it's always shouted to the heavens with these select episodes that if they gave Trapper something to do, ... and it becomes a bit cliche, but when you look at his character over the 3 seasons, it's a shame Wayne Rodgers / Trapper wasn't given more to work with. Trapper had enough defining traits that separated from Hawkeye that just weren't fleshed out. He's also a slightly edgier sidekick than BJ ever was. This is a future character we have not met yet, technically. It's always nice to see Rodgers get to sink his teeth into a more meaty fare, and it is a shame we never got to see that unrealized potential of the character that Trapper John deserved. Man, I can't wait for the BJ Trapper discussion years from now. So, yeah, as we've said, I've said it. Ethan, I know you don't have all the information yet because that's kind of your position in the podcast right now. I love MASH, all of it, all the characters. I love Trapper and BJ and Mike Farrell and Wayne Rodgers for different reasons. But I do agree. I do wish we got more meat out of, or rather, not more meat out of Wayne Rodgers. I wish Wayne Rodgers was given more substance to work with, and I think Mike expressed that very well. But
absolutely, Mike has a way with words.
Well, I mean, I'd say you have a way with words. His way is much more, nice and pleasant. Yours is terrifying and haunts my nightmares. So yeah, that is some of the comments from our Patreon. But now, to the rest of the audience, you have all been very kind in sharing your thoughts. And I'm not going to read his Twitter post too, because I feel like that's unfair. But Mike did also respond on Twitter and echoed the call. The first hashtag of the podcast that's actually MASH related, hashtag Justice for Trapper, was something I threw on the post just for fun.
Hey!
And Mike took it up as a rallying cry. Hashtag Justice for Trapper. 4 out of 5 for Kim. Chief Smash Forever says 3.5 out of 5. Good Trapper episode, but never been a huge fan of this episode compared to other season 2 episodes. That's fair. Definitely gives Wayne more to do and room to spread his acting wings. Donator says 4.3. This, along with Radar's report, are 2 examples of how good Trapper could have been if they'd given him a chance. And he also always loved MASH episodes that focused on kids. It lets them show a different side of the characters while addressing some of the harsh realities of war, like orphans and kids getting hurt and all that. Adam Price says 5 out of 5. Thought this episode gave a great look into the heart and soul of Trapper. He is a deep and complex character who is not explored enough. 100%. On 100%. And they were very fortunate to have Wayne Rodgers, he says. And I think, yeah, 100%. Just in Time says he's going to admit this now. As happy as he was for the son and mother to be reunited, he secretly despised Mother Teresa for doing that to Trapper. I think all MASH fans have a slight hatred for Mother Teresa in this episode. Or Sister Teresa, I should say, not Mother Teresa. But yeah, are you feeling any negative emotions toward the nun, Ethan?
I feel like it's encroaching on blasphemy if I say yes. What's black and white and red all over?
I'm not gonna answer.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Anyway,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Goddamn, I really have to stop being.
You really do.
Like this.
Ethan really has to stop being Ethan sometimes. Damn. That's crazy. So yeah. Well, we've rambled on enough about this episode. Good episode. Decent episode. Solid episode. Always love seeing more of Wayne Rodgers. Can't argue with that. The next episode, for those that are interested, but hang on, backtracking. If you have not yet discovered the fact that this podcast reads off audience commentary and ratings and all that jazz, we want to hear from you. Please go follow us on all the social medias. Links are in the places. You know how it works. You've been on the internet. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Patreon, email, all that jazz are in links below and in the description of the show. The next episode is one that, I'll be honest, I'm not excited to talk about. It's not a bad episode. It's just, man, it do be kind of fillery, and that is LIP. It is not lip. It is L.I.P. It is an acronym. So yeah, so looking forward to discussing that episode. So many interesting and wonderful conversations we can have. But that is for the next episode. Until then, folks, we have been us. I have been me. Ethan has been him. Ethan, do you have any last minute things that you would like? Any parting words you wish to share?
I hope that none of you have to resort to doing any of the stupid things that I talk about. I want to be very clear that my actions are a reflection of me as a human being and not recommendations for how to live your own life.
I would also like to apologize on behalf of Ethan for about half the things he says in any given episode. But anyway.
The old folks at the retirement community are furry.
Are furry? Oh no. And on that note, folks, we'll catch you in the next one. Be sure to share your thoughts on anything we talked about on this episode or previous episodes on the social media, and we'll see you over there for many fun MASH discussions. Until next time, bye.
The time has come for us to say sayonara.